Thinking about a scenario where your child is injured can be difficult, but this morning, Michael Schwartz is helping guide you through what to do until help arrives.
He is live this morning at CHS Mobile Integrated Healthcare. They're based in Henrietta. And Michael, it is EMS week, and we certainly do appreciate all the work they've been doing, especially throughout the pandemic.
That's for sure. We're going through simulations right now. Angelo is simulating being struck on his bicycle with Lauren Whitman, who is the URMC Pediatric Trauma Program Manager. Okay, you're a parent. Ambulance hasn't arrived yet. What are you most concerned about, and what should parents do?
I'm most concerned about making sure that we're both safe. I want to make sure we're both in a safe situation. We've called for help. Because he wasn't wearing a helmet and he's not crying, I'm very concerned that he has a head injury right now. So I want to make sure that he stays as still as possible in case he has any other injuries, so I can use my hands as just gentle reminders so that he doesn't move. And we're going to stay here until help arrives to take him to the trauma center.
Staying as calm as possible, but of course making sure we don't get into this situation, wearing helmets and making sure we're going over those safety. Hey, this morning we're going to show you more protocols such as Stop the Bleed here on Good Day Rochester, and even take you to URMC with Mercy Flight, what they do. We're with first responders all morning. Really important information that you need to know as we honor them on EMS week. And today is EMS Children's Day. We'll see you guys soon.
All right, Michael, thank you. Angelo, a great actor there, too. This is EMS Week, a chance to celebrate the people who provide emergency medical services in our community. Today, specifically, is EMS for Children Day, and we're learning what EMS teams in the Finger Lakes want you to know if a child is injured. Michael Schwartz joining us live with those first responders for some important advice this morning. Michael, good morning.
Hey, good morning. I'm here with paramedic Frank Manzo, here with CHS, and the emergency medical technician here within the healthcare system in Henrietta, as well as Lauren Whitman, who is the pediatric trauma program manager under URMC. What we're simulating here with Angelo is Stop the Bleed, a very crucial program. So if there was a bleed that he was having, a T-shirt could save his life. That's correct, Lauren?
That is correct. A T-shirt could save the life. So bleeding is the #1 preventable cause of trauma-related deaths. So if Angelo suffered an injury, would a parent or caregiver be able to respond appropriately so that he didn't continue to lose any blood until first responders arrived? So what we can do is we could grab a T-shirt, a towel, whatever you have nearby. We could put it over the wound and apply as much pressure as we can until help arrives. So we want to make sure that we're keeping constant pressure on a wound. Some wounds are a little bit more complicated and they can require some wound packing or maybe even a tourniquet use. If you're not comfortable with how to use this or you haven't received the latest education, you can visit stopthebleed.org to find a local class. And if you'd also like to get additional information on CPR classes for child and adult, you can always call your local EMS agency or fire department to get that information as well.
And you can go on mlrems.org, mlrems.org, to see if there's any type of training programs. With the tourniquet, you want to apply the pressure above the wound, right?
You always want to put the tourniquet as high as possible on the injured limb. So we would only use this on an arm or a leg. We would put it as high as possible on that limb to make sure that we are stopping that blood flow from the source.
Never on the torso.
Never on the torso, never over a joint. We don't want to be applying a tourniquet in those places. We would put it as high as possible and then tighten it around that limb as much as we can, and then tighten this windlass rod right here until the bleeding actually stops.
Can we see a little bit of how we would do that here?
Absolutely.
So again, these are all things that you should know, and I think the main goal, whenever I'm talking to first responders, and I'm sure you would reiterate this, is to remain calm. It may be your child, but of course, in these situations, you want to do all the safety measures as a caring parent or guardian to make sure your child is not in this situation. But if it is, it could potentially save a child's life. Lauren, as you mentioned, bleeding is such a huge cause of death, and this right here could save your child's life, even just a T-shirt. We're going to continue treating Angelo here, who's being a great actor for us this morning. Stop the Bleed, again, a huge program where even just a T-shirt can save a life, or even a dish towel, whatever it may be, from your own home.
Very cool. Good to know.
Thank you, Michael.
Can I just say that I would dream of a child who would lay that still and be that quiet and calm and cooperative? Like,
Yes.
good for him. We love having him on
fantastic.
here. Yes.
All right.
We are marking National EMS Week this morning by focusing on kids and their safety. And this morning, Michael Schwartz is live with first responders who want you to be prepared, Michael, with potentially saving your child's life.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, Chris. And I want to show you something. You see that computer right there? Well, that's actually state-of-the-art technology. That monitor right there. Frank Manzo, who is Assistant Chief with CHS Integrated Medical Services for the healthcare, that machine is different than a lot of other companies?
Yeah, it's a brand new cardiac monitor that we just started using about 2 months ago now. We received a federal grant for them. It's state-of-the-art technology. It's called the Tempest monitor. Replaced some older monitors that we've had. And it's got Bluetooth technology built in. It connects to the cloud, and it's pretty wild, all the stuff that it does. So it's really elevated the level of care we're able to provide.
One of the first in the country, you said?
We are one of the first agencies in the country to use those. We have about 20 of them.
That's amazing. What we're talking about right now, we've been with Lauren Whitman, who is the Pediatric Trauma Program Manager at UR Medicine. But we've been talking about the different type of programs from Stop the Bleed, which can save a child or an adult's life, and of course now CPR. Lauren, if you just want to reiterate, of course, Stop the Bleed, because even a t-shirt, this t-shirt can save someone's life.
This t-shirt can save a life. So bleeding is the #1 cause of preventable death following trauma. And anyone can become that immediate responder. So instead of using that time where we're waiting for the first responders to arrive, just sitting around, we can actually act. We can grab whatever we need and apply pressure to save that person's life, to keep them stable so that when we get them at the trauma center, they're in a much better spot. So we will teach how to apply pressure. We also teach how to pack wounds and then how to apply tourniquets if the wound requires a tourniquet as well.
So applying that pressure, literally you could just take it and just put it right on top.
Yep, you can use a t-shirt, a towel, whatever you have nearby to apply pressure over that wound to just hold on to that bleeding, control that bleeding until help arrives.
Now, we did CPR certification a few months ago at 13 WAM, a majority of employees, and they taught us, as someone who is certified, that the certificate's not enough. There's even an app. You need to be familiar with this information in order to continue learning how to do it, because shock is a big thing. We're not trained professionals like you, but we need to know how to do this. But I want to thank both of you for being here to allow us to see what you do, a little insight of the heroic work you do every day. And by the way, your son Angelo, nice job acting this morning. We really appreciate all your simulation. He's gonna sleep in, I hope. But seriously, thank you on behalf of the entire community and all the first responders out there saving lives. By the way, guys, these ambulances, they've been cleaning non-stop after every single patient since the beginning of COVID, from the straps on the stretcher to every little detail to ensure safety. So thank you for always looking out for the community. We'll see you at UR Medicine next.
All right. Thank you, Michael. We continue now with Good Day Rochester, 7:30 on this Wednesday morning.
Yeah, and a beautiful start to the middle of our week. We're going to see lots of sunshine today, just a little bit of cloud cover through the afternoon. And you can see rain chances increase through the rest of the week, but highs today pretty warm. They'll be in the lower 80s. We are marking National EMS Week this morning by focusing on kids and their safety.
Today is EMS Children's Day. Michael Schwartz is catching up with some local paramedics.
We're getting a look at what they do and how you can potentially save a child's life before paramedics arrive.
Hey, good morning. We're with CHS Mobile Integrated Healthcare here in Henrietta with Assistant Chief Frank Manzo as well as TJ, both doing this simulation with Angelo over here. Okay, so Frank, if Angelo or another child was in a situation where they needed to be loaded into the ambulance, these are some of the procedures. A brace around his neck, a backboard, and then on a stretcher.
Absolutely. So one of the things we want to do if a child falls off their bike or falls from a long height, we want to make sure we stabilize their spine. So ways we do that is, initially we'll hold manual stabilization, and this is something parents can do. Like we talked about earlier, is you want to hold that neck nice and straight. We want to get this collar on. We get him on this long board, and that way we can transport him safely in the ambulance on something very hard where his spine will stay just in line until we can get, proper x-rays if needed or proper evaluation by a doctor at the hospital.
To then lift on to the stretcher. Now, with COVID and everything, of course, it's a parent's worst nightmare to even see this image and to see an ambulance even around their child, because no one wants that. So what has it been like for a parent to be with their child, especially during COVID? Can they be in the back of an ambulance?
Yeah, so one of the exceptions we've made throughout all of the pandemic is that parents are allowed to be with children, and this applies to the emergency department as well. Certainly visitors of adults are not allowed still at this point, and we generally don't transport them in the ambulance because once they get there, there's nowhere for them to go. But for kids, we want the parents to be their advocates. We want the parents to consent for them if they're not 18. So it's absolutely a big part of their care that their parents are there. And we know how children are too, is they have a hard time, reacting to caregivers when they don't have a parent available to talk with them and calm them and things like that. And that makes a big difference to the care we provide, because without that, it makes our jobs that much harder.
Right, because you have to also be the mediator, you also have to be the caregiver. Your most important job, though, is to save their physical life, but you also have to be there for the overall team mentally. Now, we know Angelo, because Angelo is your son.
Correct.
As a news reporter, going to these scenes, it is very tough to even hear about it.
Correct.
What is it like to see this?
Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, in our minds, children don't get hurt, and we don't want to see children hurt, or sick for that matter. So it's very difficult as first responders for us whenever we see a child hurt, and it kind of adds a level of stress that we don't normally get with adults. It comes at a little bit of a different level, and it adds to all of our anxiety. So we try to treat the parents as well as we're trying to treat the patient on a different level. One's an emotional level, one's a physical level. Things we try to explain to parents is, hey, what you're going to see when we get to the trauma center. Why a lot of parents ask, I want to go to this hospital, and we tell them, no, we need to take them to the trauma center, of which is the University of Rochester in our region.
Right, because not every hospital has a trauma center. So if someone did have a gunshot wound or someone did have a certain illness or injury, one hospital that they may be brought into in a private vehicle would not be able to treat them. They'd have to go to another hospital. Of course, this is all an automated system and I should say mechanical system, where it can be loaded into the back of an ambulance. But just an amazing job. I'm always in awe of what you and other first responders do each and every day, especially during this time. I'm sure you've seen such a hectic time, especially during COVID-19, keeping your own protocols while trying to literally save lives. My last question in this segment is, what should parents know? We're not trained professionals like you are to stay calm. What is the best advice you could give, from the stabilization to just mentally?
Yeah, it's difficult. Like when you see your own child hurt, it's even more difficult. And it's try to stay calm for your child, because we know if we get anxious as parents, our kids are going to follow our lead. And it's very harder to treat a very anxious child. So we want parents to stay calm. We'll do our best. We'll let them ride. Actually, where you see TJ sitting there right now, we'll let parents ride right next to their child, because they're going to help us on the way to the hospital, help us know about their child as much as we can figure out in the 10 minutes we're going to be with them.
And prepare the hospital that you go to. TJ, Frank, I want to thank you for all that you do. Did you want to just mention one more thing?
I was just going to say that, one of the things we explain to parents a little more is that, they want to go to the closest hospital, and we have to explain to them, hey, we're bypassing the closest hospital because the trauma center is where they need to be for the proper treatment.
You know what to do. Trust them, but of course, try to remain calm as best as possible. But seriously, thank you for what you do, and all the EMS workers as we honor them during EMS week today, especially huge information for EMS Children's Day. Hey, next, we're going to be on the roof of URMC. We're talking with Mercy Flight, how they take to the air to have life-saving measures.
All right, Michael, thank you. We're going to find out how long we'll see high temperatures reach into the 80s. Marty's full forecast next. It is 7:36 this Wednesday morning.